Hello, everyone, and welcome to Temple Hayes podcast on Fire for Life. We love that you participate with our various guests and artists and teachers and healers. And today you are in for a divine connection, truly. The moment you see our guests, you'll go, "Ooh, I feel like I can be a better person. Oh my goodness, let me align my chakras." I'm not being facetious. You can feel spirit just coming from her. Dahryn Trivedi, welcome to our show today. I'm so glad that you're here and bringing your spirituality and your ideas of truth to this show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Temple. You're such a bright light. That's so sweet of
Oh,
you.
oh, you're welcome. Well, it's
I'm
true. I
so
mean,
happy.
it's not a Southern nicety, as we say. It's just, you just feel the presence coming from you. So, I imagine that you went down a few roads and took a few stop signs along the way, etc. Metaphorically speaking, how did you get into or be interested in the journey that we call spirituality, inner development? Is there really a God or a divine force? Is there a story there?
There's a long story, but I'll keep it short for the
You don't
sake of
have to.
your audience. Sometimes I'm known to be a little long-winded, so I'll try and restrain it just a
That's
little
all
bit.
right. That's okay.
Uh, I mean, I didn't really feel like I had much of a choice. I felt like I was just kind of thrown into this path with,
Mm.
this incredible strong connection with divine since birth, with this huge intuition, this sense of God within my own awareness, this deep inherent connection that I just felt God was with me, as me, through me, wherever I went. And I had these incredible experiences of just transcending, this world and having these divine experiences. And it was kind of difficult for me throughout my life because I felt very alone because of it. I felt very
Mhm.
soul sick because I still had this, kind of individual experience as this little girl who just wanted so much to kind of bridge that gap between her and divine. And so it left me feeling very soul sick. The more ecstatic experiences, the more, experiences of thoughtlessness and moments of ecstasy that I had, the more I wanted God when I didn't have it. And so I was fortunate, I had parents who were involved in many different parts of life. They were involved in Christianity as well as Paramahansa Yogananda from San Diego. And so I had, the duality, the different teachings between the East and the West. I had a wonderful combination of the two, and I fell in love with both of them. And I found truths in both of them. And the one truth that really resonated me and affected me the most was this idea of a catalyst, someone who was able to embody this divine, this presence, because I felt that embodiment in my life. So the idea that someone could embody this presence and act as a catalyst to connect to someone else as well. And
Mm.
so, of course, we called this concept the guru and everything, but whatever terminology we used, this idea stuck with me. And divine actually gave me this idea, right? I had kind of like a premonition, so to speak, or a moment where I felt divine told me that there was someone I was supposed to meet in this life, someone who was destined for me, who would also be my soulmate, and that this person was this, incredibly gifted being that would help me along my path of awakening and realizing God as well. And that person turned out to be, my current husband. And so I met him, and, everything kind of led us to working together on this incredible mission to creating the scientific foundation of consciousness.
I love your story and what I hear throughout the story is, first of all, I'm delighted for you that you had parents or a community from the very beginning that you could go, I'm kind of focusing on this and I'm kind of feeling this without being wrong. Not every one of us, including me, was that fortunate. And yet you and
Right.
I both know with the divine connection that it's all part of the greater, multifaceted part of developing yourself. That being said, when you talk about, I hear bridge versus wall, I hear connection versus dividing. And it's interesting, often, especially now with the availability with people just doing their life out loud on social media. And I see people that, have been in various modalities or new age or new thought or, whatever. And they then go, well, my life didn't work. And so all that's fake and none of it's true and none of it's real. And I'm just going to put a wall and it's all lies and it's not real and it's not true. And yet, total traditional Christianity is the only answer. And if you're doing anything else, and I read this type of stuff and I weep. I weep inside. In that, I feel, wow, you know, isn't it beautiful that more and more people step out and speak out? We need a lot of people in the world that will say, hey, this is how I found a universal connection through Yogananda, through Jesus, through Buddha, through Hare Krishna, through Sai Baba, through my tree in the backyard or whatever. But yet, to feel that we have to discount and act like nothing ever existed and it was all wrong, I feel that is a real huge epidemic in our society, and that could be on both sides, right? Or not sides, but you get what I'm saying. It could be
Yes.
that because there's wisdom in tradition, Christianity, there's wisdom in all of it, and it's like a great recipe for this amazing divine connection, which is what you're all about. And yet, when we block, I don't think people understand that they're blocking themselves.
Yes.
Do you flow with what I'm saying? Because I'm just allowing spirit to guide me, and I feel like you probably met a few people along your journey that feel like we have to choose one or the other instead of, I'm so grateful for everything kind and unkind that I've met on my path, and I integrate it. Does that does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like, I don't know if you've heard that spiritual saying where, like, if you dance around truth in a circle, then you assume truth is a circle because you can dance around truth in a circle, right? As
Very
opposed
good.
to a square or a triangle.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's very true. I feel like that's how a lot of people is depending on how they can kind of encapsulate that truth in their experience. That's what they assume the truth is. And in reality, they're actually just kind of interacting with their own perceptions and conceptions about God instead of experiencing the direct reality of God. And all of these religions, everybody, even your very heart, your very existence, right? It's all substantiated. It's all fundamentally consciousness, right? We're all connected through consciousness. And so that's why our science research is the research of consciousness. So we're getting rid of the, divisiveness of religion and spirituality. We're getting rid of the divisiveness of religion and spirituality, as well as the divisiveness of science, which kind of rejects religion and spirituality and the experiences that people like you and I feel, right?
Hmm.
That you and I feel as truth, and science denies it because it's non tangible. And so we've established this invaluable database of scientific research to validate the existence of consciousness and to point to everything that suggests that this consciousness is God, and that all the religions, everything that they're talking about, all the essence, they're all the same when you really look at it. When you break down what they're teaching, all of them are teaching the same fundamental truths, the same divine principles that all of us ultimately want to follow and need to follow. It's just a different format of talking about it, and that's it.
Hmm. It absolutely is. I know years ago this quote came to me, and I love quotes because I remember as a teenager I would make posters and I would write things on the wall. Very deep person. I imagine so were you. Just
Yeah.
really, really, like, yes, I will go out and play, but then I need to return to my room and be deep and think about the way of the world and, all these things. And that being said, one of them that occurred to me was united we stand and divided we are merely a distraction. And yes, we see that with these external situations and circumstances. United we stand and divided we're merely a distraction. And yet, in growing into that quote, as we grow, as we expand, it's united within me, right? That
Right.
otherwise I am merely a distraction. I am more than just a physical body. I am more than a spiritual being or emotional or mental or all of that. And it's united, not divided. And I think those kinds of things that you are saying are, we are growing into it more and more of it proves itself by the very nature of our lives. Now, Darwin, with the studies you do and the studies that you and your husband do together, the Trivedi power, energy, love, connection, do you find, are you a person that would say that more and more we're just having a conversation. We're not going to hold you or me to it, but just our own feelings. Do you feel that more people are waking up? In other words, becoming more aware of an all encompassing creator and the connection. And if I feel something, then I'm transmitting some of that to you and you are to me. Do you feel in your work of many years um, that you see that more?
I'll tell you what I do see.
Thank you.
I see. So obviously this path, we've had a fair share of incredible amount of difficulties because ultimately, whether they're a scientist or, just an individual with their own beliefs, we're dealing with people who kind of are very rigid and they don't want to accept something that challenges what they think is real.
Totally.
And so we've actually faced a huge amount of resistance. And that's actually kind of what made me fall in love with my husband, my guru, when I first heard about him, because I was so familiar with this guru, this, idea of a guru, which,
Hmm.
I didn't have any idea outside of that concept. And so I had this idea of a guru. And when I heard about, my mother was talking about him in the car because my mother had this incredible experience after receiving a blessing from him. And she had gone to many different healers and people from different modalities, tried all these different things throughout her entire life. And she took me along with her to solve this soul sickness and then to solve this problem that she was facing in a relationship with her son, my brother. And nobody was able to really find an answer or a solution to it, something that was viable or something that was long lasting or permanent, even. And what happened after one blessing of meeting this man, right? That relationship completely improved overnight.
Mm.
It was like day and night. The friction and the conflict between them was resolved after just one blessing. She'd never experienced anything like that in her life. And so she was like, whatever my daughter's going through, this soul sickness, this yearning, this pining for God and this soulmate in her life, this man might help her with that. And so as we were driving in the car, my mother was explaining he's not a traditional guru. He doesn't wear the saffron robes and the, religious garb with the long beard and the long hair, right? He's into science. He's wearing a suit and a tie. He cut his hair short, right, to fit into that role of, a scientist so that he would be more accepted by the scientific community. Because the moment scientists would hear that he wants to do it, a divine transmission or do a blessing, they immediately refuse to work with him
Mm.
just out of the idea of it. They didn't have that broad spectrum of being willing to explore that side of life. They didn't even want to try. And there's a reason for that. And I can't say scientists are wrong. I'm really in support of people who are skeptical because that means they think for themselves. And I feel like thinking and feeling for yourself is a vital part of the spiritual experience. You shouldn't always just go off of what people tell you and concepts and things that are handed
Hmm.
over. They're secondhand ideas that you're following and following like sheep. I feel like that you should think for yourself. But I feel like it's gone to the complete opposite, where now even the skeptical people, they're not willing to look in things that, originally were seen as the paradigm of the time. Now they've completely rejected it as even possible. So we've experienced in the complete opposite side of the spectrum. Everything kind of shifts from one side to the other. There's not really a sense of balance yet that I've seen. So I knew that he would have a very troublesome path, that he would have to deal with a lot of hatred, a lot of people who were skeptical, a lot of people who would fight him on this. And he experienced a lot of people who fought him all the way. And so it's really a painful journey, and at the same time a really liberating journey, because what we've been able to do scientifically is unprecedented and has not
Hmm.
been to this scale by any other organization that I've seen. And so what I see is the suffering that persists today is awakening in and of itself, because when we go through suffering, it makes us more conscious and it brings more awareness to the problem and the look for an answer, the look for a solution, the look for a resolution. When things are fine, when we've reached complacency, we don't want to grow. We don't want to do anything different. There's no need to. If you're comfortable, why do you need to, improve or do something different? But when there's a huge amount of suffering, when there's a lack of answers, that's when consciousness through us, through our individual experiences, tries to force an answer, tries to figure out, how do we escape this pain? How do we escape this suffering? And with the lack of answers, we'll just try anything at that point. We're just trying to figure out an answer. And I feel like it's created this perfect void, this perfect vacuum that has established a, well-formed foundation for our kind of research.
Mm. That is so well said. I'm so glad that we have that on a recording. I love it when you just go like, yes. I mean, it's just flowing from you. Now, did Guruji Trivedi, did he start in the U.S. or did he start in another country? Did he bring the
So
teachings to America, or I'm not familiar with this work?
I mean, he has no religious or spiritual background per se, right? He
Good.
was
That's
an insurance
wonderful.
event. I know. That just shows you that spirituality and true religious experience transcends religion itself.
Of
It
course.
transcends,
Of
ritual,
course.
dogma, and belief.
Yes.
Like, even the average person who has no spiritual background can have spiritual experiences and not have the framework or knowledge as to what is happening to them,
Hmm.
right? They have
Absolutely.
moments where they feel this incredible love or this beautiful moment in life, and they bear witness to it and they just think it's normal. And they don't
Sure.
understand that it's actually something that's miraculous that's happening to them.
Right.
So that's what happened for my husband, right? He was born and raised in India. So he naturally, is a part of this culture and this society where they have a concept of a guru and enlightenment and all these different things. So he had a foundation for that, but he had no religious upbringing or no training in that regard.
Got
He
it.
was an insurance investigator. He was a mechanical engineer by trade who turned into an insurance investigator. And then just, he would experience, moments of trance. And then one night, he just kind of had this full-blown awakening where
Mm.
his old self was lost and this new self came forward. And Divine had told him that his path, he was to forget everything that he was before, to forget his past, to let go of everything, to quit his job. And now his path was going to be something completely different.
I love
And
it.
so I know,
I know. I
naturally,
just
he
love
took
it.
on the role.
Hmm.
He took on the role of a guru. I'm sorry for interrupting. He
No,
took on
no,
this
no.
role as a guru because that's what you do. If you have this wonderful experience, this moment, you've had this awakening, you've experienced
Hmm.
enlightenment, right? Like the full blown enlightenment, not just an experience of enlightenment, but you've reached enlightenment. You're now fully realized, right? He's like, what do I do now with this enlightenment? He's like, he just kind of took on the role as a guru because that's just kind of what you did in that culture.
Of
And
course, in
he,
India, the word guru or Guruji is
yeah,
extremely common. and very
Yes.
reverent. And wow, though, the bravery of just this was my identity. I think that's part of, in my own assessment with my life and others, in the States, is that we get the identity becomes a box. It becomes like, well, this is my
Right.
identity. And here he was, this mechanical engineer and had training, and then he was this insurance investigator, and he did not seem to argue his identity. Like, what do you mean? Just quit and I mean, was that, and I ask these kind of questions because the audience that I have, a lot of them have been with me like 15 years, and I can kind of hear some of them out there going, well, I've been getting some insight too, but I'm terrified. What do I do? Or did he just say, okay, here I am? Or was it a process? Was it, um, I mean, you're speaking for him, I get that, but you've been together
Mhm.
and representing each other's work for so long. And then his work is about your work. So do you think it happened with ease, as far as making that kind of transition and change?
Absolutely. Because
Wow,
when
I love
divine is
it.
in your life, right? When divine is in your life, there's no fear anymore. There's
Yes.
no uncertainty. You feel taken care of every step of the way. You're not alone anymore. Everything that you've wanted outside of yourself is now you are perfect and completely whole within. So even if things are going wrong outside of you, even if circumstances aren't meeting your needs and everything, there's never an aspect of worry that enters your consciousness or your being. You just know that everything's fine and taken care of.
Love
Even
it.
if he didn't know what the next step was in his life, he knew that he just continued on this path and divine would make it known,
Mm,
or divine would bring whatever he needed into his life to take care of him and support him and guide him on what his next point of action was going to be.
mm,
And his life just naturally unfolded. Like he really didn't have to do much,
right.
right? I mean, not to say that there wasn't a huge amount of struggle and hardship in life. That just is inherent to the human condition, I think. But he didn't suffer because he was at peace and he was happy because he had this connection within him.
That's beautiful. Well, that I'm sure alone gives people courage, of
Absolutely.
because often the struggle or the suffering is the resisting the forward movement, isn't it?
Right.
It's the determination to stay. It's not a box, but you know what I mean, as far as putting words in language, that sometimes is very interesting, alone. But it it takes tremendous courage for people to leap from what they know into an active participation into what they don't know. So it must have just been like a real soul homecoming for you, knowing all your life that you were called to a soulmate and a teacher friend. I mean, a real soulmate. I'm fortunate to have one too. We're teaching each other all the time. Just
Isn't
all
that the
the
truth?
time. Whether we're having popcorn or not, we're living out some kind of movie.
Right.
And it is literally fascinating. It really is. And what's even more fascinating, because I'm like in 20 years this coming year, and I'm like, gosh, we're just so alike. I mean, it's like a light came on one day, like, wow, we're a lot alike. Because you go through phases within your own journey that you integrate, not in a way of
Yeah.
making wrong, but you integrate in the rightness of one another, how different we can be. And yet,
Right.
anyway, I just find relationships so fascinating, and it is truly the gateway to the divine connection. Everyone that's tuning in, we are talking to Dahryn Trivedi, and she is giving us much insight about spiritual connection, about her own path, about Guruji Trivedi and his work, her husband, her soulmate. And you want to go to their website, a divine connection.org. So easy to remember. perfect name, divineconnection.org, and read about them and look at the events and the things that they offer and what they do. And they also have a free gift for you that is related to the presence of being on this show. So we will put that in the text that you will be able to read on social media. So please check in and get yourself the free offer that they are making available to us. And we're very appreciative that you're making that available to our listening audience. And I'm already feeling that many of you that are tuning in, either current time or later time, are finding and knowing many person that you can share this with as we're coming into this holiday time of people that just want to know that they are whole, they are holy, and that they're a human being. And I love, Dahryn, your when you speak because I know in the early part of metaphysics, of feeling connected as a child, as all of those things, skip, 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 chapter, chapter, but there was a time where I got caught up in the of my own doing that I was going to be so engaged with so much learning and so much quiet and so much meditation and so much, number one, that I probably wouldn't even look like myself again, like a
Right.
bad case of too much plastic surgery, like that, or that I was going to be in such a place that I could be into my namaste and I would no longer be, I wouldn't have any problems and I would just be beyond the human condition. And I'm so glad that whatever, I'm sure there were many things, but I'm so grateful for everything and everyone, kind and unkind, that I had the good pleasure of being a part of, so that I came to this new awareness of the more I am into my divine connection, the more pleasure I find in being human. Do you, and I've heard you refer to that, and I don't hear many people say that. I gave a talk not too long ago in Malibu, California, and we hold them in our prayers because of the fires they're enduring right now. But I said, a lot of people don't tell you that spirituality at times is hard, right?
So really? What do you mean?
Because they don't want you to know that. It's like, take this fast track to wholeness and you'll just be so special. It's a human condition, and I'm just drinking that in of you being into the reality of life and feeling great about it and seeing it for what it is, not pretending for what it isn't. So
No.
anyway, thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that on my behalf.
Yes, it's
Just
so
think positive
important.
and everything else will go away.
Right. It's so important because it creates such a level of human beings feeling inadequate or not enough, but I did that. I drank the juice. I did that. I owned my way home and still, I'm dealing with whatever. It just is so refreshing to say and come from a place of it is what it is. And it has a lesson in it, and I feel it. And it's not always fun, but I'm determined to walk through it and walk with it. And I feel there's not enough messaging out there, about
Right.
this.
I agree wholeheartedly. And really what we're doing, right, as an answer to that lack of messaging, because, everybody works within a certain paradigm. And science has been at the forefront of our paradigm for a long time. And science has denied consciousness. So, it's been a huge lacking part of our life, our, culture, our technology, our medicine, our food, everything. We don't realize that consciousness, being this fundamental part of reality, our fundamental essence is pure consciousness. And consciousness is not just a human experience, it is an experience of animals, plants, even non-living materials. It is the substance and essence of everything. So the fact that science is missing this vital part of reality, you see that there's a huge lack of answers to current society, to this epidemic of problems that are merely increasing instead of decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You see like the same thing with like mental health problems and everything. And all of the answers, if they were true, viable answers, you would see that maybe, the mental health, epidemic would be decreasing. But in the fact, we see the opposite, it's increasing. So we see all the viable answers out there are not real answers. They are distractions. They are
Mm-hmm.
things, we get attached to processes. We get attached to ways of doing things. And like you were saying, it's like we get attached to a certain way of being in life that we don't want to move beyond that, even though it's something that is perhaps much better for us. We are rigid and strict and maintaining this smallness in our life when there's something that's so much more capable within us to give us more than what we could ever even need or require. And
Mm-hmm.
that is available to all of us. But we are not aware of it. And without this awareness, obviously, what can you do about it? If this awareness doesn't exist, how can you call it forth? How can you harness this higher consciousness? How can you implement this and yield practical results in your life? What we've seen, all the problems that are existing today, even in terms of bioavailable food and nutrition, even in our, in our medicine, modern medicine, like our antibiotics and its ability to address even the superbugs of today. All of these things, when we apply consciousness, our organization, when we're applying higher levels of consciousness to whether it be a plant, an animal, a virus, fungi, whether it be a non-living material or a human being, like what we've done in our clinical trials, we've seen that consciousness through its application yields practical outcomes. It yields
Mm-hmm.
things that changes our reality on huge levels, not incremental levels, right? You hear a lot of people touting, huge claims, and they really have insignificant outcomes in terms of like clinical trials and scientific research. If you're able to extend the human lifespan by a week, they'll approve a drug on the market, right? It's not that significant really when you look at it.
Right.
But in regards to what we're doing, I'm talking about like without the use of toxic chemicals, fertilizers and fungicides and everything, we're able to increase, the crop production by over 500% and its immunity by over 600%, as well as increase its nutritional, viability for the human body. That's something that science has not been able to have an answer or, a way to solve till today. And we've been able to provide a solution for that. That comes from higher consciousness. And imagine if you apply that to the human life. All the things, the epidemic with human life that you see today is coming from a lower level of consciousness. This chaotic state of mind, ADD, ADHD, poor quality sleep, poor relationships, even financial struggles, all of these things can easily be solved simply by raising consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's why we're creating this huge scientific foundation for the existence of consciousness, because ultimately we need to create a new paradigm, a new era for our medicine, our technology, our livelihood, for the human condition to operate within. We need to
Mm-hmm.
create a new understanding about human life. And this is vital, I think. It's not even like an option anymore. I feel like that really people have no choice anymore.
I love that. And, as you were talking, I was thinking just in this simplicity of, I know for me being vegan and, the path just leading me in that direction and those types of things. And, but something as simple as a practice of just allowing the vibration of the food and asking it to align and match your body. It does something to us. There's this moment of, do I really want this? Does this really fit the vibration that I have? I know in Europe, in Cologne, Germany, when I went on a tour in the chocolate museum, that back in the day, it was served in a lock and key, right? I mean, and you only gave so much, and now you look at mass consumption and sugar addiction, which leads to so many other, other things, um, and connecting with that of just all of those types of things. And um, I have found in my own practice that as you're expanding, as your energy, as you're getting younger, and the youthfulness of your energy, your body no longer wants to eat what it did, right? At another
Right.
time or another way, or whatever. I mean, it must change with us. And anyway, yes, ditto, ditto, ditto. I'm enjoying you so much. I'm so delighted that you're on the show. It's refreshing, really, of just common sense. For many years I talked about, I've been thinking about starting another show called, about common sense.
Honestly, higher
Right?
consciousness comes with a huge amount of common sense. It's
Right.
it's very practical and logical. A lot of people have mythologized and made consciousness into this woo-woo thing, when
Right.
really it's very practical and it has incredible implications, right? When you're coming from a higher level of consciousness, no, you're no longer, operating from a fragmented point within your mind where, right? I don't know. Have you heard of the connectome?
No. Mm-mm.
The connectome. So it's like neuroscientists have tried to map out the human brain, and they've tried to create something called the connectome, which shows how all the neurons and the structures of the brain all connect together. And till today, science has not been able to map out even one human brain. That's how complicated the human mind and the human brain is. But what they found is, and this very much applies to consciousness, because pure consciousness is pure potentiality. It's everything's possible from that pure consciousness. But the problem is we're not living in that pure potentiality. We are very much restricted. We are conditioned in our life experiences and the things that we're capable of doing, in terms of even the habits we have and our beliefs and our ways of thinking. We like to think that we're consciously in control of those things. And really, if you look at the human mind, it's very much like an iceberg, where underneath what you see on the surface is this much bigger structure that is actually controlling and making things the way they are, so that even our conscious thoughts, we think that they're our own decisions to think that way, and it's actually coming from this huge subconscious process that is actually beyond even our conscious control. And what I've seen is, right, all of us have this pure consciousness, this divine presence within us. We all have this divine connection. The only question is, how much of this divine connection do each of us feel, do each of us have, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all there. The potentiality exists in every single person, in every single soul. But how much of it do we feel? And if you understand, anything about karma or yoga, or even, what the Bible says, all of these religions touch upon it and talk about it in their own right. And they talk about this idea that our experiences of life, our actions, or the thoughts and the emotions that we engage with and that we use, to engage with our external environment and even within our own minds, right? That these aspects of our being ultimately create our reality. And another way of saying that is this divine presence that's within us. Our life experiences dictate how much of this divine light is shining through. This light of consciousness is shining through to take care of us and support us. When there is more consciousness, there's more of this energy that comes through in life that's supporting us, and it wants everything that is for our good, for our benefit, and for our happiness. It wants to take care of us. There's a reason why religions call it the Divine Mother, the Divine Father, right? The Godhead. It's
Mm-hmm.
because it is that aspect of us that wants to take care of us. The true nature of consciousness, it's self-effulgent. That means it's self-sustaining. It takes care of itself. When we exhibit high levels of consciousness, our life takes care of itself, right? And so there's a concept in science of an iron bar versus a magnetic iron bar. And the difference between the two, right, is that in an iron bar, you see all the atomic particles, they're all misaligned, they're all kind of chaotically organized. And a magnetic iron bar, everything's disciplined. All the atoms are disciplined. They're all in line with each other. They're all synchronized. And this alignment, right, this discipline is a more correct way to say it, actually allows this electromagnetic energy to flow through the spaces between these aligned atoms. And that space that we allow, right, that we have created through discipline within our beings, within our minds, within the way we conduct ourselves by following, a moral, ethical, and pure, innocent life, right? That requires discipline. Happiness requires discipline. If you want to create a life that you want, the life that you love, it requires discipline and self-effort. And you see that when this discipline happens, then we create a space, a stillness within us that allows something, right? An iron bar, when it becomes magnetic, it doesn't create magnetic energy. It harnesses magnetic energy. It harnesses something that is already there. It's become disciplined with the principles and the fundamentals of this magnetic energy. Similarly, with human life, everything works with the same concept. Nature has made everything universal. So, in the same way, in our individual lives, if we want to allow this consciousness to work through us and improve our lives, to make things better, to create more harmony, more synchronicity, to improve our health and vitality, our quality of life, our sleep, everything, then it requires the discipline of our being to follow what, religions have called the Dharma, or, the principles and fundamentals that are aligned with this pure consciousness, with divine. By following those principles, we become the best conductors of this energy of higher consciousness.
Absolutely. Do you and your husband do public events? Obviously we want people to go to the website, divineconnection.org, but how do you
Absolutely.
work with people or experience others? Tell us about that.
So everything we offer through our nonprofit, Divine Connection International. And this nonprofit, it does a variety of different things. Once in a while, we'll have like a free online event, like an online workshop, and we'll include like, a free, whatever terminology you want to use, an energy transmission or a blessing. We occasionally offer that to the public. Another thing we have is something called these membership programs, where, because we are firm believers, right? Transformation is not a moment. It's a journey. It's a process. And it really dramatically helps. I mean, of course, everybody can grow on their own. Everybody's capable of growing on their own, but it helps a lot when you have someone, like, if you want, there's a law in nature, right? Everything follows these laws where energy flows from a higher dimension to a lower dimension. It's very difficult to exceed that law of nature, right? You see, water always travels downhill, never uphill. There's a reason for that. So energy, even in physics and everything, we see that how energy works is energy, follows that same pattern. So it's very difficult for us to, come out of our own little box sometimes, unless we apply a huge amount of discipline and self-effort. We really truly understand the principles and fundamentals, right? If we're able to truly follow these things and understand what they are, but since we don't have this basis of understanding of what that is, and we don't feel this connection, we don't know what to follow. So it really helps if you have, someone who's able to transmit this higher consciousness to you, because what it does is it melts away, the past experiences that life holds to you, right? As if you have like this diamond and this ice around this diamond. It helps melt away that ice so that you can reconnect with that pure consciousness. And through that pure consciousness, you can feel, right, what that nature is, and you can follow that nature. You can follow what brings more energy, more vitality, and more goodness into your life. There's a path for that. There's certain things in life and ways of being that actually increase our energy, they increase our vitality, and certain things that are just not harmonious with human life.
Yes.
So as I was saying, for my journey, it really helps if you have a catalyst who's able to bring you back in tune and touch with that. Even just to tell you if they've done the path before, these are the pitfalls. And that's why we have these membership programs, is because through these memberships, we can help people reconnect with this presence, which is their ultimate blueprint. And at the same time, they can have consistent education to guide them on, the pitfalls on the roadmap for life, that these are the divine principles and fundamentals. When you follow this, eventually your own consciousness is aligned in such a way by following these principles that now you can feel the truth for yourself. You don't even need, my husband or I to explain anything to you, right? It comes to a point where you become independent and you're able to feel the path for yourself. You're able to understand what works and what doesn't, and you can evolve yourself. But it really helps if you have an enlightened teacher. And, I'm a big supporter on anybody, whatever works for you, whoever you resonate with. It does
Absolutely.
not have to
Or,
be us.
yes.
As long as there's somebody that's able to provide an outcome for you, right? For me, like, this is our work is unprecedented, something I've never seen before, and that resonated strongly with me. But
Hmm.
I don't feel like that should be the only reason. I feel like there should be something that's practical and yields an outcome in your life.
Sure.
Spirituality is outcome oriented, it's not process oriented. So follow the outcome wherever that leads you, wherever you
Wow, that's
connect with.
worth saying again.
Yes.
Spirituality is outcome oriented, it's not process oriented. Wow,
Yes.
that's a quote right there. And so true. It's just so very true. Well, it
Very true.
has been such a pleasure having you today. And I love your screen in the back, the winged
Oh, thank
creatures
you.
of the East, life,
Over
new
here.
beginning, birth, the energy. It's just so powerful. I've enjoyed being with your winged creatures today very much, but more importantly, I've truly enjoyed your presence and your energy, and I felt like we're sharing kind of a transmission while we're together. And I really want to thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your time. And everyone, again, go to divineconnection.org. And there is a free gift for those of you that are tuning in that are part of the podcast with Temple Hayes. And we'll put the information in the content on the social media. So you can just copy and paste and go right to the URL. So thank you so much, Dahryn. It's such a blessing. Is there anything that you would like to leave as a parting moment or conversation?
I just really want to say that a higher consciousness, right? Consciousness is the only solution for our better quality of life, for our happiness. And I also feel it's important for you to know that you are loved and you are not alone. And
Mm.
this path, right? This consciousness is the one thing that connects everything together. It connects all of us together. It connects us to that source, to that divine. So if you want to enjoy your life, if you want to have a better quality of life, higher consciousness is the answer. And that's it. Higher consciousness, the answer to our crisis in food, to our crisis in mental health, to our, crisis with, our drugs and our supplements and all these different things that we are finding problems. Higher consciousness is the answer.
Yes, it
But
is.
ultimately, know that you are loved and you are not alone. And we're here for you if you ever need us.
And I love that higher consciousness creates such an energy within ourselves that we are comfortable. When you're comfortable with your own divinity, your own higher consciousness, there's no hatred. There's no, you're right, I'm wrong. There's no, we're this way, we're that way. It's just, it's a beautiful way to live.
It's
Thank you,
very beautiful.
everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And again, thank you for sharing the show. This has been so rich and such a blessing.